allows anyone to take a picture of us at the gym, walking around Lake Nokomis, or attending a Lynx game, put it into an app, and create a hyper-realistic pornographic video. But on Saturday, this technology will be illegal in Minnesota, and the big tech corporations that profit off of image-based sexual abuse will be held accountable. Minnesota is the first state, but we will not be the last. Lawmakers of both parties from across the country have reached out to me, and this bill will be introduced in more than a dozen states come next year, if not more. It would be best if nudification technology was banned at the federal level, but state lawmakers are standing in the gap in the absence of Congress. And we will effectuate a national ban state by state if we have to. I want to thank the victim survivors who came forward to make this bill happen. They have repeatedly shared their stories in public, in committee, with reporters, and with law enforcement. Their brilliance and power and fierce advocacy is the reason that we have this law. This law will not bring consequences to their abuser, but they have made it so that what happened to them never happens to any Minnesotan ever again. And with that, I want to pass to my co-author, or my chief author in the House, Representative Jess Hansen.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Senator Maye Quade, for leading on this. In the House, we knew that this was an important issue because we know that when we let corporations do what they want, this is the kind of stuff they do. They enable tools that harm children, and we find that to be unacceptable. And House DFLers have led on this issue along with our Senate DFL counterparts, and we're going to continue to do so, not just on this issue, but on all issues of sexual abuse against people and especially against children. The everyday harm that's happening is absolutely unacceptable. It is also something that not everybody understands or knows about, and that's understandable because it is a really dark and tragic trauma that happens to people. But we have to be real that this kind of feature used in AI, it is sexual abuse. Digital abuse is sexual abuse like this. And we need to make sure that we stand up against it. So again, when we let corporations do whatever they want, this is the kind of stuff they choose to do. And this is what government's role is to be responsible and to do what we can to protect people, especially children. There's no reason that the children of Minnesota should become the subjects of child sexual abuse material globally for the rest of time. We can do something about that, and we should. And that's what this technology does. So when the richest man in the world comes after us and says that he doesn't want this, the question we really need to be asking is, why did he ever allow it in the first place? Why is this a feature of AI that he's fighting back against? And why would anybody see any public good with this being allowed in the state of Minnesota? I'm looking forward to a national call of action on this. We need to hold these kinds of men accountable for what they're doing and the kinds of fights they're putting up. This is not acceptable. There is nobody else in the world out there to protect children except for grown-ups. And it's our job to make sure that we're doing that. And this kind of abuse has seen a 26,000% increase in child sexual abuse material that's created using this feature. The IWF has done amazing work globally to talk about the impacts that this has had on the dark web and in those hideous chat rooms that we see. And this is the way that we can go about that. So we're proud to lead in this way, and it's an honor to be here. And I'm just so grateful for the advocates who stepped up and brought this to Minnesotans' attention, because without that, we wouldn't be here today. And so really, when we think about the issues that we're facing with this, it is because people have stepped up to say, we're not handling this anymore, and policymakers like us are here to respond to that. So I'll hand it over to our folks, to Molly, I think is going first. Megan's going first, and you can hear from them. Thank you.
Hi, hello. A little bit of my experience with this. I was on vacation. Megan Hurley. I was on vacation 2 summers ago, planning to make deeper connections with my family, and that was taken from me when Molly told me that a man I once considered a dear friend had used an easily accessible website to make disturbing nude photos and videos of me and many women I know. It broke me open to be violated in this way. I've been in a state of grief, rage, or despair since then. There isn't room for much else. I have never taken nudes. I have never exchanged nudes with anyone, but now there are convincing pornographic images and videos of me somewhere online for forever. I don't know who originally said or tweeted the move fast and break stuff. I know that seems to be the guiding principle in the tech world, and maybe that's why the world seems so broken currently. And that's why this legislation is really important, to prevent it being humans and Minnesotans who are the broken.
Hello, my name is Jessica Gusteles. 2 years ago, I found out that a man I trusted for over 20 years had made pornographic videos and images of me using a family photo. And not just of me, of over 80 women. And when we called the police, every single one of us heard the same story. There's nothing we can do. They weren't wrong. There was nothing. There's no laws, no recourse, nothing. This technology doesn't just live on a screen. It follows me. It followed me into my HR department, where I had to let them know what happened. I had to let my employer know. It will follow me to every job I ever apply to, because I don't know where these images are and who's seen them. It follows me to dinner with my husband, and when I look around the room and I wonder who else knows what's happened. And it's not just me. I get texts from my best friend on Saturday mornings because she sees stories in the news. For example, she sent me one where 2 boys did this to nearly 60 of their classmates. And now that technology will also follow them into their jobs, their marriages, their lives, forever. And when she sees something like that, she thinks of me, and I hate that. But I love that when she does, she thinks this is awful and someone should do something. And she knows who to send it to. Because 2 years ago, we were victims with nowhere to turn. Today, thanks to the amazing women I'm standing with, and a huge thank you to the 2 of you. That weapon that did this to over 80 women is no longer welcome in this state. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Molly Kelly. The person that targeted me was the same as Jessica and Megan. He was my husband's best friend of 20 years. And I was 6 months pregnant at the time. The stress was significant. My doctors were concerned. I stopped going to work in person, and I spent my maternity leave on the phone, pretty much, making phone calls, trying to get help, notifying the other women that I recognized. And as I said, it was about 80 in Minnesota. And the person who did this wasn't particularly creative, clever, tenacious. This probably took him 20 minutes to do with the apps available. This is not hard. So I spent my maternity leave working to find help, and I am grateful to have found Senator Maye Quade and Rep. Hansen, who really felt like a partnership where they were willing to learn and listen, because in our case we were early, it seems like, to the technology. Trying to explain how this worked was difficult. When I started to learn how this technology was actually being used, I removed nearly every trace of my children from the internet. I never announced my pregnancy. I never announced the birth of my son. But then I found that personal choice is an illusion. We tell parents to be careful, to post less, monitor more, lock things down, but none of that can reach the phone in someone else's hand. There's no expectation of privacy in public. Any child on any playground can be turned into a target in seconds, and has in our own schools by people who work there, adults who work there. This is not a problem that can be solved by personal responsibility and telling families to try harder. Individual caution can't compete with automated abuse. The technology is overwhelmingly against women and children. It creates a real barrier to participate in public life. Megan, Jessica, and I, and countless others are forced to live with consequences of intimate acts that absolutely never happened. For children, the harm is worse. For kids, images create a permanent record of humiliation before they're old enough to read or understand what has been done to them. And I want to make one thing really clear. General purpose AI tools, as we know them now in 2026, don't have this functionality. You can't ask OpenAI, their ChatGPT, to do this. It won't do it. It is not necessary to have the creative and knowledge and fun with the tools for general purpose AI tools. They don't have it. For the tools that do, I would argue that they're not general purpose, but they have a very specific purpose. The general purpose AI tools that don't do this, they don't because it's not part of their business model. They don't profit off of this type of abuse. So saying that you can't have one without the other is just simply and provably not true. Allowing tech companies to hide behind the First Amendment is a legal and moral failing. They're making, using, and selling and profiting from abuse. The specialized tools are easy to access, so much so that a 12-year-old can take a photo of a classmate and generate a pornographic image in less time it takes to walk between classes. No delay, no barrier, no friction to getting these tools, no meaningful safeguard. That child is far less likely to acquire the skill, time, and resources to do the same thing without these tools. If we really want to reduce the harm, we have to address the mechanism producing it, and that's exactly what this law does. Downstream remedies like the Take It Down Act are necessary and very helpful, and I wish that there was federal action on the upstream side like this law prevents, and maybe someday there will be, but if it's state by state until then so be it. As a country, we've gotten amazing accomplishments state by state. The 19th Amendment is one of them. I'm so proud of Minnesota for doing the hard thing. I'm grateful to have found Senator Maye Quade and Representative Hansen. It's been a really long 2 years, and it feels like a partnership with a common goal. So thank you.
With that, we will take questions.
This bill is fairly focused on we were just hearing about sort of the upstream impact of some of these things. Would you guys ever consider visiting sort of criminal penalties for perpetrators, specifically those who are using these tools and find ways around sort of regulations like CSAM, that sort of thing?
So two things there. First, it is already illegal to possess CSAM, no matter how it is created, whether it is created through AI or other means. It has been illegal in the state of Minnesota to possess and create CSAM for much longer than AI has been around. The second is that these companies violate the law we already have every single time they produce an AI-generated image of someone nude or in pornographic, because we already have a law against the dissemination of non-consensual deepfakes. Dissemination is defined as the distribution to one or more people. So every single time these companies send an AI-generated non-consensual sexual deepfake to somebody, they are already violating the law, and they continue to do it. So now we are saying the technology that you're using to violate the law that already exists can no longer be available to Minnesotans. The second part I will say is that like Molly said, this actually is not a requirement for AI to exist. There's a reason why Meta and Anthropic and OpenAI didn't sue the state of Minnesota, because their tools don't do this. It is a very easy function to turn off. The apps that do this, they market themselves to children. They say, hey, turn yourself into a Lego, turn yourself into a fairy, turn yourself into your favorite Pokemon character. Also, nudify one of your 12-year-old classmates. So this is a very, very easy law to stand and defend, because this is not technology that anybody needs. It is not something anybody asked for, except for perpetrators of child sexual abuse material and people who victimize people via image-based sexual abuse. So I'm not worried about making more laws. It is already illegal, and it's just doubly illegal now.
So to just continue on that, can you respond to the lawsuit from Erin?
I'm happy to respond to the lawsuit. I am surprised that Elon Musk's attorneys had time to file a lawsuit in Minnesota yesterday, because they were sued 3 different times for this exact conduct that is now illegal in the state of Minnesota. A UK lawmaker is suing them because they created a video that showed her being chloroformed and being prepared to be sexually assaulted, something that we are both aware of might happen to us because we stand up to the richest man in the world. An Arkansas family is suing OpenAI and Elon Musk because their child was turned into child sexual abuse material using Grok. And 5 Tennessee children are suing Elon Musk's company because they were also turned into child sexual abuse material. I cannot believe we are having this conversation, and the audacity to come to Minnesota, that is the first but not the last state to protect children and the people within this state, the same day you have multiple people across the world suing you for the harm that you're causing, is pretty audacious. But we will prevent that harm from happening here in the state of Minnesota, and other states will follow suit. And, when the richest man in the world is suing you because you want to protect kids, you have to wonder, why doesn't he want them protected?
on that note, we saw obviously very different situations, but the prediction market bill
Yeah.
was blocked because of a preliminary injunction. Are you at all worried that this lawsuit might impact the implementation of this law in some way, shape, or form?
So this is what I will say. This is the second time a law of mine has been challenged by Elon Musk. That one is in effect, and I expect that the courts will see that this law has been very, very well crafted to protect First Amendment rights while also protecting Minnesotans from image-based sexual abuse and being turned into child sexual abuse material. The law was written specifically to do that, and I hope that it will withstand judicial scrutiny and go into effect on Saturday.
To that end, can you talk about the artistic exceptions?
Yeah. Yes. So in the law, there are exceptions for any images that are created using substantial human means. And so, what'd you say? Technical skill. Technical skill, yes, which includes substantial human means. And what that means is that if somebody creates art, maybe it's art I find distasteful or art that I wouldn't buy or don't like, it's still art and it's still protected by the First Amendment. I also want to point out that the law requires people to have generated an image or a video with an intimate part depicted that wasn't in an original video. So you could take a naked picture of yourself and edit it in AI because you already had your intimate part depicted. And so we really did just narrowly craft this so that art is protected, First Amendment expression is protected, but the conduct of making people naked is regulated, and that is what this law does. Did I answer? Was that you, Dana, back there?
I think so.
Okay.
The complaint also alleges that the law is sort of clumsy or has vague language around what those parts are. I wonder how you respond to that. Do you feel like they're specific enough?
Yeah, I mean, it's an intimate part is defined in 609, so we cross-reference to the specific definition of intimate part.
This lawsuit obviously is claiming that it's a free speech matter. I think for many people, they don't understand the nuances of how these companies make money, and you hit on that a little bit. But do you really foresee this as being a matter of free speech, or what would be an alternative reason they could be suing at this point to try and stop this?
I think the alternative reason they are suing is evident in the headlines of what they want to do with their tool and what they are doing with their tool, and how they're making money. I don't see this as a free speech issue. This does not regulate content. It does not regulate art. It regulates conduct. Prompts are not art, and we protect art specifically in this law. Again, it's pretty audacious to sue to prevent a law that protects children from being turned into child sexual abuse material, but again, this is already happening. They're already doing it with that tool, and I think that's why. Do you have anything to add?
I'll just add to that I think we have to be really honest and face this. And as a survivor of child sexual abuse, we need people to really look at this for what it is. When the richest man in the world this hangs out with the Epstein class, and that's who's ruling around the world, especially in this country with little to no consequences, we cannot act surprised when he's trying to protect the #1 tool used to make child sexual abuse material. We have to face that. Children need us to stand up to this and to do something about it. And for too long, we have been afraid to talk about it or uncomfortable to talk about it. And this is real. This is the #1 tool used. And when IWF reports that there's a 26,000% increase in the existence of child sexual abuse material using this feature, I think that should say something. And again, back to the point of why does the richest man in the world want to protect a feature that makes children naked? Grok has made tens of thousands of images on a regular basis. There's a lot from TTP and so many organizations that are doing this kind of work to talk about this that I hope everybody takes time to link in your articles and to make sure that journalists and reporters know just about how prevalent this is as policymakers and victims and survivors. Because unless and until every grown-up and every adult on the planet decides to start to condemn this in the strongest way possible, it's just going to continue. This should alarm everybody. The IWF reports have been going on for the last 2 or 3 years, and they get worse every single time. And I know we're not all hanging out on the dark web, but they're doing the research with Interpol and other international organizations to find this information, and it's really important that we do that, and we have to call it what it is. There is a ruling pedophile class globally. This is a commerce chain that stretches around the planet. This content is paid for. It is big tickets depending on who is depicted, right? People are making millions of dollars on this off of abuse of children, and we have to be able to face that, and I hope that we can count on our press partners, journalists around the globe to continue to talk about that too.
It's also the training.
Go ahead.
It's not just that too, it's also because this is a decentralized problem. Somebody in Russia, China, anywhere in the world can do this to me right now, and it doesn't, how are we gonna hold that individual accountable? It's not possible. Prior to AI, there were internet crimes against children. The FBI have a hard enough time tracking the provenance of child sexual abuse material that is transferred online to hold an individual accountable. This does not help, and it's not going to happen. The other thing is that the argument that there's no real, let's pretend for a moment that our children don't have a right to autonomy and reputation and non-humiliation by their face being used in this way. Saying that there's no real children actually harmed is also not true. All of these models are trained on real images. So you're machine learning training, all the generative AI, the large language learning model, they're all trained using real information. So, and their model is only as good as what they're fed. So this perpetuates constant abuse, and it is real. It is real. So that's, sorry.
I'm just wondering if, the concerns that Musk's company brought forward in the lawsuit, did you hear about those while you were crafting this legislation from any AI companies or big tech lobbyists, or is that just coming out now in the suit?
I am so glad that you asked that question, because you are giving me an opportunity to say good things about big tech minus this company. Not one single tech company came up to me and said, this will hurt our business model, we won't be able to develop AI, people won't be able to use our tools. And the ones that did come to me said, we don't think you're trying to ban what we do, and I'm going to say Adobe here. Can we work with you to make sure that we're not banning people using Photoshop? Absolutely. We worked hand in hand with companies who do good work and provide good tools to make sure that their work is not implicated here. In addition, this was a very bipartisan bill that took 2 years to pass. It went through multiple committees in the Senate. It is bipartisan co-authors over here. We worked on it between every single committee, lawyers, advocates, and then in the House, the same process. And so we really came out at the end with the best bill we could possibly have. And part of the reason you don't see a multitude of tech companies suing the state of Minnesota over this law is because it really doesn't implicate them at all. Usually, I guess, just one.
Could we hear a little bit about the civil right of action in this law and
Yeah.
what that process would look like for somebody who ends up being a victim of something like this, how that would play out, and who they'd be able to take that action against in civil court?
Yes. The way that we have the law constructed is there are civil penalties available to people, and I think there's, 3 different options for people to use. So it's your county attorney, your city attorney, the attorney general, and the prosecutor. And so we have that civil penalties available to people that reflect the real harm and the real damages. Again, our victim survivors won't benefit from it, but if that law had been around, they would have been able to pursue damages for the very real harm that has been caused to their lives. And it was important that we allow that to be present, because those are the kinds of things that keep companies accountable, is the threat of losing money, unfortunately, and not the harm to people they cause. Anything to add on the civil penalties? Okay.
we begin this morning with investigation into St. Paul's Mayor Cully Herr.
This is after allegations of sexual harassment toward the St. Paul Police Chief Axel Henry and other city employees. This is all according to the Star Tribune.
Now, the Strip says that a letter was sent by Police Chief Henry's attorney, who's Chris Maddle. This was sent to the St. Paul City Attorney Irene Cow. Now, Maddle stated that Henry had filed a formal complaint. This was a letter that was dated back in April.
And that letter was obtained by the Strip. It reads in part, Chief Henry has reached the decision to step forward as a formal complaint against the mayor after becoming aware that the mayor's conduct has extended beyond isolated incidents and has included sexual harassment of subordinate city employees, including members of the St. Paul Police Department. WCCO has reached out to Henry's lawyer, but we have not yet heard back.
And Mayor Herr's spokesperson did release a statement to the Star Tribune saying, quote, the mayor has deep respect for city employees and regrets any unintended impact that her action may have had. WCCO, of course, will continue to learn more about these accusations. We will update you just as soon as we learn more throughout the day. We are just 1 week away from the planned closure of St. Paul's largest homeless encampment.
But it's still causing conflict for those in the area on how to best prioritize safety and shelter for all involved. In all, the city says about 220 people live in 3 major camps. The majority are in Pigseye Park, which is home to roughly 140 people. City leaders estimate another 80 people live at the 2 next biggest encampments. The problem, according to the city, is that those 3 encampments are simply not safe, and they're responsible for more than 850 911 calls over the past year.
So last night you had concerned residents, elected officials, people living in those camps meeting at a forum, and many wondering why the city would move forward without enough shelter beds. They also criticized what they call a lack of outreach. At times, things turned contentious. In fact, one Ramsey County commissioner expressed some doubt in the plan.
I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's going to be successful. We're going to do our best. We will try across the board. The bottom line is, regardless of how much money there is out there, there aren't enough beds today to purchase in housing. And so we're looking at other solutions of how we can move forward.
So Ramsey County commissioners did vote to partner with St. Paul yesterday and accept more than $1 million in city funding to expand shelter beds.
Food delivery apps, boy, are they quite popular with American teens. There's a new survey that spoke to more than 1,000 teens aged 13 to 17. Nearly half of them say they use food delivery apps, and a quarter use them while they are in school.
I'd like to know how many schools allow this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I would think a lot of schools don't.
Well, I'm thinking of just security, right? Like when you, for example, you can't just go into a high school. You have to probably hit the button, DoorDash. Yeah, I'm here for Briley's delivery. What? Huh?
Which class is he in again?
Yeah.
3rd floor,
Okay.
science, okay.
Your hot take, Katie.
My hot take is phones should not be allowed in any school anywhere ever. You lock that sucker up when you get in and you take it when you leave. Like, I don't understand why that's not a national policy, because it's absurd.
This is like going to a concert now. Like sometimes you go to concerts, you have to put your phone away. That's what you're saying at school.
Yes.
That's what it should be.
How is that a thing where you can do that? That's like common practice at a concert, but not where we are educating our students.
Yeah.
Like, come on, people.
It is kind of crazy, though. But the interesting part about this study was these kids were doing it, but these kids also knew it was wrong.
They knew it was wrong, and not only that, but
not that it was, yes, but they also understood like the issues of bullying and equity.
Yeah.
Like they got the larger picture.
They understand.
But they still did it
But
because
they
they
still
could.
did it anyway.
Their brains, like,
Okay.
I mean, we all did. I don't know about you guys, but like, I did stupid things as teenagers. Come on, man.
How about you? What do you think? Should students be allowed to use delivery apps during school hours? Let us know. Facebook page. Katie's going to go to our Facebook page and write another TED Talk. We'll share some of your thoughts later on in the show.
Still on my soapbox. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Katie Steiner. Here's a look at our severe weather outlook. This is for tomorrow. We've got a 1 out of 5 chance for severe weather, and it's because of these storms that are rolling through in the overnight hours. So you can see here 11:45. These are the ones we are going to be watching. And then once we get to Friday, they're not going to be severe, but we do have that chance for rain throughout the day, specifically the morning. So here's your look at 7:15 around the Twin Cities. And you can just see how much moisture is here. That's a good thing because we definitely need that rain, as your yard is probably telling you if it's anything like mine. But could see about a half of an inch to an inch with this system. Again, that is Thursday night through Friday morning.
In today's Money, we're discussing the housing market, which has stalled out this year. We're joined by CBS News business analyst Joe Schlesinger, who joins us live from New York with more. Joe, we always appreciate seeing you. So let's get right to it. Where do we stand right now when it comes to affordability? So many people want to know when it comes to owning their own home.
Let me give you the official word. It stinks.
Yeah.
Because we've got higher prices, increased mortgage rates, elevated costs of homeowners insurance. You put it all together, it's very hard to buy a house. Think of it this way. If you looked at a house 5 years ago, the exact same house this year will cost you 80% more. So you're not crazy. It's a tough market. So I want everyone to just realize that yes, the house price increases have slowed down, but affordability is still lousy.
Okay, we know it's hard. We know it stinks. But if you are still hoping to buy a home, what are the steps that you would recommend somebody might take?
You know what? On my new podcast, we were just running the numbers with somebody. And yes, you can make it work. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying running those numbers can really help you out. What you're trying to do is you're making sure that your cash flow can absorb the costs of a new home. And even if those numbers do work, you've put everything in. If you look at buying a house and say, if I own a house, I just have to live like a miser inside of my house, you don't want to be house poor. You also don't want to be putting yourself in a place where you're spending so much money on your house that you can't fund anything else like retirement or education. Remember, renting can buy you flexibility. It can buy you liquidity, access to your money. It can buy you freedom. Don't underestimate renting in this kind of a market.
Okay, Jill, so we talked about what if you're hoping to buy a home. What about if I'm looking to sell my house? Are there things that sellers need to be focusing on right now?
I think one thing that's kind of interesting, it's the flip side of the affordability. Housing prices have gone up by a lot. We know that. So a lot of Americans are sitting on top of a ton of equity. Some folks who sell their homes are surprised that there could be a tax bill that's due when they sell their homes. Here's why. The IRS lets every individual exclude up to $250,000 of capital gains. It's $500,000 if you're a couple. But let's look at that individual. You could be an individual who bought a house, 30 years ago for $100,000. You sell that house for $500,000, and guess what? You will have a capital gains tax that's due. So what you just need to know is that when you sell that house, you might have to keep some of the proceeds in a cash account to pay Uncle Sam next April. It's not that you're going to avoid it. It's just that if you're aware of it, you can avoid that terrible surprise in April.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got to be aware. Yeah. Goodness gracious. Jill, as always, we appreciate you. Thank you. You can see Jill regularly on CBS Mornings and the CBS Evening News. You can more analysis. You can always go to jillonmoney.com. Well, as our hot summer continues, a concerning trend is popping up among teens and young adults. This is called tan maxing.
Tan maxing.
Yeah,
is what
tan
you're
maxing.
saying. Okay, it's trend. It says tanning makes tanning seem kind of harmless. Yeah, pediatricians and dermatologists, though, quite concerned about this. We got Dr. Liz Plotchek, pediatrician over at Children's Minnesota. Okay, tan maxing. We've heard looks maxing, like all of these different things online, people finding on TikTok. What does that look like to you? What does that look like to some of your patients?
Yeah, we're seeing these tan maxing videos all over social media, so of course our parents and families are asking about it. Tan maxing means tanning, you know, staying out in the sun, or unfortunately going to tanning beds or using other tanning products. And really what I'm concerned about is the damage it's doing to your skin.
Yeah. Well, speaking of damage to your skin, I'm thinking some people, like, they come back from vacation. Ooh, you've got a healthy glow. What is that healthy glow? Is that actually good for your skin?
It's not good for your skin. So any change in pigment in your skin after being out in the sun is damage from UV radiation. UV radiation is a known carcinogen. This, over time, leads to higher rates of melanoma or skin cancer.
Let me give you a little tip off here. I heard my daughter telling her friend the other day what the UV factor was outside.
That blew your mind, didn't it?
Okay, and I thought, oh, how neat. Like, they're so into science. No. They all look on phones and whatever to find the UV factor so they can have prime tanning. But Dr. Plotchek, I mean, I go back to my own childhood. Like, we were doing this back then too. Like, we were doing this 20 years ago. We just now have another name for it.
Yes, exactly. And since that time, we've learned the damage that this can do to skin and seen the higher rates of cancer, even in kids and young adults, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a lot of great products out there that avoid UV radiation and can give your skin that natural glow, if that's what you're looking for.
Are we talking oils? What are we talking? Screens? Like, what specifically are you talking about here?
So, two distinctions. One, if you're going out in the sun, we need to wear sunscreen, right? Protect your sun.
Of a certain level, like a 15, a 30?
Depends on what activity you're doing and what that UV index is.
Yeah, good point. That's my daughter.
So now we got to go back to the store. We got to get a bunch of different sunscreens, 15, 30, 40.
Well, we should have that anyway.
True.
Okay, I have heard of stuff like beef tallow. Yes, okay, I've heard of this. So like baby oil, you sit out with the tin foil, all that stuff. Like, these are all the things that they're telling these kids to do. What is going on? What's this beef tallow?
Yeah, these are products that people are using on social media to promote the healthy glow that you're referencing. Now, again, there's other ways to get that healthy glow. And beef tallow, baby oil, they don't provide your skin any protection from the sun. They may feel really moisturizing or good on your skin, but you're still getting that same damage.
Can we get a close-up of AJ's face right now?
I'm sorry. Look, it's different. Look, some of these things I have to deal with anyway. Like, you know, like, hello, but like, what? Beef tallow? What?
Yeah, okay. Wear your sunscreen. Even if you want to look good for prom, there is a great spray tan.
That's the same advice from like 30, 40 years ago. Wear your sunscreen.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Oh my gosh. Dr. Liz. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Good morning. We were looking at 83 degrees right around 10:15. That dew point, though, is warm, 68. Couple of heat advisories to tell you about specifically if you live or you're going to be traveling up to the north. You can see in northeastern Minnesota and also in western Wisconsin, we are seeing a heat advisory that's going to go into effect until 7 p.m. tonight. That's because our feels-like temperatures are going to be close to 92 degrees. And then off to the west, our feels-like temperatures are at 100 potentially. That one is going to be expiring at 9 o'clock tonight. Here in the Twin Cities, we're looking at an actual air temperature of 93, but those feels like temperatures at the most are going to be at 95, 94 degrees. So keep that in mind if you're going to be out and about. We definitely have lots of water, light clothing, loose fitting clothing, find the shade, all those things. So our look at our temperatures for today. We're at 93 degrees in the Twin Cities, 84 in Duluth, 90 in Grand Rapids. You're at 91 if you live down in Marshall. But that dew point tracker, dew points are going to be high for the next couple of days. They're going to be in that 65 to 70 range, which is the very humid range. So if you are outside, you're going to be dealing with that. Low temperatures are warm for this time of year. 73 degrees is our low temperature overnight. We're at 70 degrees up in Grand Rapids. And then our high temperatures for tomorrow were about 91 degrees, 88 in St. Cloud. Things will start changing though Thursday night. That's when we've got this chance for rain and storms. So we could see some severe weather with these storms Thursday night. We've got about a 1 out of 5 chance for severe weather. These push through. Here's your look at central Minnesota where we've got that rain. This is right around 11:45. Then we could see the rain in the Twin Cities. Brainerd up north is really where we need that rain. So it's good to see the rain coming in that area. 4 a.m. and then you can see just a whole ton of moisture that's going to be circling around the Twin Cities. So we'll get about probably half of an inch to an inch. But here's a look at that chance for severe weather. 1 out of 5 chance if you live in these areas shaded in the tan. 7-day forecast, that rain on Friday expected throughout the morning. I think afternoon, evening, it'll be at least lighter or non-existent. And then Saturday, Sunday, your weekend looks really nice and dry. Monday, 91 degrees. Tuesday coming in at 88.